I'm going to walk through the JBL Professional ASB6112 Ultra Compact 12-inch subwoofer in a way that helps you decide if it truly belongs in your system, not just because the name sounds big. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. What most people worry about when they look at a sub like this is whether the power rating translates into real-world punch without drowning the rest of the mix, and whether the physical footprint will actually fit the venue they're trying to cover. First off, let's talk about the problem most of us run into with subwoofers. You either end up with something that sounds great on paper but sputters when you push it, or you buy a massive cabinet that eats up your rack space and never gets used at full capacity. The ASB6112 sits right in the middle of that dilemma. It promises 1000 watts continuous power and a 4000 watt peak. Yet it's marketed as an ultra-compact unit that can be ground-stacked or suspended. The key question is whether those numbers hold up when you actually wire it into a live sound or DJ rig, and whether the compact design makes installation easier or introduces hidden trade-offs. The first thing I looked at was how this sub fits into a typical professional setup. In most touring or permanent installation scenarios, you have a main PA, a set of high-frequency drivers, and then you add a sub to fill out the low end. The ASB6112's 12-inch differential drive dual voice coil gives you flexibility to pair it with a single or double amp configuration, which is a big practical win. If you already have a 2-channel power amp, you can drive the 2 voice coils independently and fine-tune the low-frequency response without buying an extra amplifier. That flexibility can shave a few $100s off a system that would otherwise need a dedicated subamp. The large vent area is another point that matters once you start using the sub in a real venue. A well-vented enclosure means the cone can move more freely, which translates into lower distortion at high output levels. In the field, that shows up as a cleaner bass thump when you're pushing a club track at 130 dB. I've seen a few installations where a tightly sealed 12-inch sub starts to sound muzzy as it hits its thermal limits. The ASB6112's vented design helps it stay articulate even when you're cranking the level for a dance floor. That's a tangible advantage if you're the kind of engineer who likes to keep the low end tight and not let it smear into the mid-range. Now, let's be honest about the drawbacks. The unit is compact, but it's not lightweight. At roughly 45 pounds, you still need a sturdy mounting plate or a sturdy ground stack rig to keep it stable during high-energy events. The ultra-compact label refers more to the cabinet dimensions than the overall mass. If you're planning on a portable DJ booth that you load into the back of a van, you'll need to factor in the extra weight and the need for a secure mounting solution. That can add time and cost to a job that might otherwise be as simple as plugging in a standard 12-inch sub. Another practical consideration is the power demand. The 1000 watts continuous rating is impressive, but it also means you need an amp that can reliably deliver that level of power without clipping. Pairing a low-output amp with this sub will result in a lot of distortion and a weak, flabby bass that defeats the purpose of buying a high-power unit. In short, you can't buy the sub and then skimp on the amplifier. The system needs to be balanced. For a small coffee shop or a home theater, that level of power is simply overkill, and you'd end up spending more on an amp and enclosure than you would for a smaller, more appropriate sub. Who should consider the ASB6112? If you're a professional sound engineer, a touring DJ, or a venue manager looking to upgrade a permanent PA system, this sub gives you the power and flexibility to match larger line arrays without needing a full-size 15-inch cabinet. It shines in applications where you need a high output in a tight space. Think understage stacks in nightclubs, compact front-of-house rigs in theaters, or even suspended arrays in outdoor festivals where wind load matters. The dual voice coil design also makes it a good candidate for bi-amp setups, where you want separate control over low-frequency crossover points for different zones. On the flip side, if you're a casual consumer buying a sub for a bedroom home theater or a small backyard party, this model will likely feel like a heavyweight that you'll never truly use. A smaller 8-inch sealed sub would hit the sweet spot for those environments and cost less overall. Also, if you're new to system design and aren't comfortable calculating power requirements, you might find the need to match an appropriately sized amp intimidating. In that case, a more plug-and-play sub with a built-in amp might be a better first step. The real value of the ASB6112, beyond the headline wattage, comes from the combination of its vented design, dual voice,